They counted 8 Americans walking through the Afghan Valley at 0300 hours. Light gear, standard patrol formation, no heavy weapons visible. In Taliban logic, this was a gift. 8 isolated soldiers, far from backup, moving through terrain they'd controlled for months. 40 fighters had been positioning themselves since sunset. RPGs, AK-47s, improvised explosive devices, and the high ground. The math seemed simple. 40 versus 8, with every tactical advantage on their side. Those 8 figures moving through the valley were SEAL Team 6, the most lethal special operations unit in the United States military, moving through a carefully orchestrated kill zone as bait for the largest Taliban cell in Helmand province. The Taliban had rifles and numbers. The SEALs had night vision, thermal optics, satellite coordination, and an AC-130 gunship maintaining altitude over the valley. What happened next would demonstrate exactly why you never, ever try to ambush America's most elite warriors. For 3 weeks, NSA intercepts had been tracking chatter about a high-value Taliban commander operating in the Sangin Valley. Mullah Hakim Ullah, bomb maker, financier, and the architect behind 17 IED attacks that had killed 23 American soldiers over the past 6 months. Finding him was easy. Getting close enough to take him alive required a different approach. Ullah moved with a security detail of 40-plus fighters, stayed mobile, and never remained in one location longer than 48 hours. Direct assault was impossible, and drone strikes risked civilian casualties in the populated valley. So SEAL Team 6 devised a different approach: make him come to them. Lieutenant Commander Jake Reaper Morrison had run psychological operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. He understood how insurgent commanders thought. Show them what looked like an easy target, and they'd abandon caution for the chance at a propaganda victory. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. 8 SEALs would conduct what appeared to be a routine patrol through Ullah's territory. Light gear, predictable route, no visible air support. To Taliban spotters, it would look like an isolated American unit ripe for ambush. The spotters would miss the thermal scopes, encrypted communications, and enough firepower to break an entire ambush line in minutes. And the AC-130 Spectre gunship maintaining overwatch overhead, its 105mm howitzer already dialed in on pre-planned target coordinates. At 0245 hours, 8 figures moved through the valley in standard patrol formation. To anyone watching through binoculars or rifle scopes, they looked like regular infantry. M4 carbines, standard body armor, routine spacing between team members. But the reality was different. Petty Officer First Class Marcus "Ghost" Rodriguez carried an Mk-48 machine gun capable of 750 rounds per minute. Hospital Corpsman Second Class David "Doc" Chen had a grenade launcher loaded with 40mm high-explosive rounds. Each SEAL carried night vision goggles, thermal imaging, and enough ammunition to sustain a firefight for hours. The real advantage was their training. These operators had conducted over 200 combat missions across 3 theaters of war. Rodriguez had been in more firefights than most infantry battalions. Chen had treated gunshot wounds while under direct fire in Fallujah, Ramadi, and Kandahar. Leading the patrol, Lieutenant Commander Morrison monitored the latest encrypted updates from JSOC. Above the valley, the AC-130 crew sifted through thermal data, tracking dozens of heat signatures, mapping elevated fighting positions, and refining firing solutions in real time. The feed confirmed 37 armed contacts positioned along the route, an organized setup indicating a major ambush in progress. Morrison absorbed the intel with a grim, satisfied calm. The enemy thought they were springing the trap. They had no idea it was already closing around them. At 0312 hours, the first RPG streaked across the valley. The Taliban had chosen their moment carefully, a narrow section of the valley with steep walls on both sides, limiting escape routes and maximizing their fields of fire. Muzzle flashes erupted from dozens of positions as AK-47s opened up in coordinated volleys. To the insurgents, this was the moment of victory. 8 Americans caught in a kill zone with nowhere to run. They had just unleashed hell on themselves. The SEALs launched into a battle drill they had rehearsed thousands of times, moving with the practiced fluidity of a unit forged by 3 years of combat operations together. Enemy fire erupted from both flanks, RPG signatures flashing through the dark. Rodriguez's Mk-48 roared first, flooding the ridgeline with suppressive fire that forced half the Taliban fighters into cover. Chen followed with precise 40mm grenade impacts, hammering dug-in positions with metronomic accuracy. The remaining operators snapped into a tight defensive perimeter, thermal optics slicing through the night and revealing targets long before the Taliban even realized they had been seen. Above them, the AC-130 crew registered the escalating engagement and immediately shifted to the pre-planned strike matrix. Within seconds, the gunship began unleashing coordinated fire on designated targets Alpha through Delta, its opening salvo marking the true beginning of the fight. Circling above the valley, the AC-130 Spectre gunship had been waiting for this moment. Its crew had been tracking Taliban positions for the past hour, marking coordinates, calculating wind speed, and preparing to deliver precision fire support that would turn the ambush into a massacre. The AC-130 was a flying artillery battery. A 105mm Howitzer, 40mm Bofors cannon, and 25mm Gatling gun, all controlled by advanced fire control systems that could put rounds within 3 feet of friendly forces. The first 105mm shell landed directly on a Taliban machine gun position, vaporizing 3 fighters and their weapon in a cloud of smoke and debris. The second shell took out an RPG team that had been preparing to fire on the SEALs position. On the ground, Taliban fighters found themselves trapped under a level of coordinated precision they had never faced. Real-time air support seamlessly linked to SEAL teams maneuvering through the kill zone. Overhead, the AC-130 adjusted its targeting grid and shifted fire onto enemy clusters spotted moving in the open. A moment later, the 40mm Bofors cannon unleashed a controlled cascade of explosions, each round guided by thermal imaging and laser designation. The impacts marched methodically across the ridgeline, erasing fighters who believed boulders and thick brush would shield them. Below, the SEALs tightened their perimeter and advanced through the chaos, dismantling the ambush position by position with cold, surgical efficiency. The failed ambush had transformed into a SEAL-led hunt. The 8 operators swept through the valley like ghosts, their night vision and thermal systems turning the darkness into a tactical map where every fleeing insurgent stood out in stark contrast. The Taliban, blind and disoriented, had no idea how exposed they truly were. Petty Officer Second Class Tommy Blade Williams, once a sniper before joining the teams, took up an overwatch position. His Mk-11 Mod 0 precision rifle, fitted with advanced thermal optics, allowed him to engage with pinpoint accuracy at distances approaching 800 meters even in total blackout conditions. As insurgents broke from the kill zone and attempted to scatter toward the northeast, Williams tracked them with steady, patient movements. One by one, each fleeing fighter fell to perfectly timed shots that echoed briefly through the valley before being swallowed by the night. Deeper in the fight, Rodriguez and Chen pushed toward the primary Taliban stronghold where Mullah Hakim Ullah was believed to be hiding. Intelligence intercepts had placed the commander inside a fortified compound at the head of the valley, protected by his most seasoned fighters. What awaited them was not a defensible haven, but a structure about to collapse under the combined force, precision, and relentless momentum of America's elite Special Operations Unit. The assault on Ullah's compound lasted exactly 7 minutes. The SEALs approached from 3 directions, using flashbang grenades to disorient defenders before moving in with overwhelming firepower. Rodriguez's machine gun suppressed the main defensive position, while Chen and 2 other operators breached the compound walls with explosive charges. Inside, they found exactly what they were looking for: Mullah Hakim Ullah, 3 of his lieutenants, and a cache of bomb-making materials that would have killed dozens of American soldiers. The high-value target was restrained, searched, and secured for extraction within minutes. Around him, the remains of his once formidable security force, more than 40 fighters who had orchestrated the ambush, were reduced to a scattering of casualties and survivors fleeing into the surrounding mountains. With the objective contained, the SEAL element signaled mission success and initiated exfiltration procedures. Overhead, the AC-130 seamlessly shifted into Overwatch, adjusting its orbit to cover the valley and the surrounding ridgelines. The gunship's sensors scanned for any remaining threats as the operators consolidated, regrouped, and prepared to move out under the protection of the most lethal guardian in the night sky. The operation's final phase had begun. A clean, controlled withdrawal with the target in custody, and the battlefield firmly in American hands. By 0445 hours, 2 MH-60 Black Hawk helicopters were inbound to extract the SEAL team and their prisoner. The Taliban ambush had lasted less than 90 minutes and had completely destroyed the largest insurgent cell in Helmand province. As the helicopters lifted off, the AC-130 conducted one final sweep of the valley, ensuring no Taliban fighters were in position to threaten the extraction. The thermal imaging revealed the scope of the devastation. 31 enemy fighters killed, 8 wounded and captured, and their entire command structure eliminated. The SEALs had suffered 0 casualties. The Taliban's perfect ambush had actually been a perfectly executed trap. They'd brought 40 fighters, RPGs, and the high ground against what they believed were 8 isolated American soldiers. They actually faced a coordinated special operations mission involving 8 SEAL Team 6 operators with over 200 combat missions each, night vision and thermal imaging systems, an AC-130 gunship with 105mm howitzer support, real-time intelligence and satellite coordination, and MH-60 Black Hawk extraction capability. The mathematics were never in the Taliban's favor. They just discovered this too late. Mullah Hakim Ullah provided intelligence that led to the capture of 23 additional Taliban commanders across Afghanistan. The bomb-making materials seized from his compound prevented an estimated 40 IED attacks. The elimination of his cell reduced insurgent activity in Helmand province by 60% over the following 6 months. Lieutenant Commander Morrison received the Silver Star for exceptional leadership under fire. The entire SEAL team earned Bronze Stars with Combat V for valor in combat operations. And SEAL Team 6? They were already planning their next mission, because in Afghanistan, there's always another high-value target, and America's most elite warriors will be ready to hunt them down. The Taliban learned a hard lesson that night. When you think you're ambushing American soldiers, make sure they're not the kind of Americans who ambush back. What would you have done differently as the SEAL team leader? Would you have called in the AC-130 immediately, or let the ground team handle more of the fight? Drop your thoughts below. If you want more classified level breakdowns of special operations missions, hit subscribe and ring the bell, because these warriors never stop, and neither do we.